Karanos, forgive me for what I'm about to do. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to be playing what has kind of become one of my signature decks, Jokulhaups. Jokulhaups? You know what, pronounce it however you want, the card works the same. It destroys all artifacts, all creatures, all lands, no tricky regeneration for you. Now, today's funding for this league comes to us from Cody, who originally asked me to play Karanos in this shell, and then the One Ring was printed. So I hope this has your blessing. If it doesn't, reach out to me. I tried to reach out to you through PayPal, and it didn't end up working out. So we'll settle up if you're not happy with this league. So the One Ring is maybe not taking over Eternal formats. I think that would be a little bit too hyperbolic, but it's having a huge impact on all formats that it's legal in. And what I want to know today is, like, what happens if we just, like, play this thing and then cast a Jokulhaups? This is indestructible, so it doesn't die, and we get to keep the One Ring. And this is one of those things that I can't tell if it's a brilliant idea or a terrible idea, and approximately 5 turns into this league, I'll probably know the answer to that question, but I just need to know. So the general strategy in playing a Jokulhaups deck in the past has been to turtle up behind Ensnaring Bridge and use that to buy time to get to your 6 mana. Once you get to your 6 mana to kind of obliterate everything that's on the board, except maybe your planeswalkers or the One Ring in this case, it doesn't matter that you've lost the Ensnaring Bridge because your opponent has to go and start over from scratch, and you should be better at that than them. And one of the reasons that we're usually going to be better than our opponent at rebuilding is that we're going to be playing Blood Sun, which notably shuts off fetch lands. So if you Armageddon your opponent and then their fetch lands don't work afterwards, like, that is a pretty gross wombo combo right there. And in iterating on the list recently, we learned that Fury's pretty good in this shell because it gets cards out of your hand for Ensnaring Bridge while protecting your early planeswalkers or disrupting opposing planeswalkers that might end up living, because since you're an Ensnaring Bridge deck, you're not the best at actually getting into the red zone and dealing damage yourself. Now, one thing we learned previously due to the initiative was that we have to have a way to answer the initiative, and if we don't plan for that, my whole Ensnaring Bridge plan is going to just fall apart. And similarly, I think we have to plan for opposing One Rings. If we don't do that, the whole Jokulhaups situation is going to be a lot less fun for me, right? So in the sideboard, we're going to be trying Cast into the Fire, which lets us exile an artifact. This will be much, much, much worse versus something like 8-cast, or, you know, a dedicated deck that we want, like a Null Rod or a Meltdown for. But this also can deal 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures, which is really important in the Orcish Bowmaster's world that we're currently living in. Let's go ahead and take a look at the full deck list in all of its glory. Now, today's video is sponsored by both Moxfield.com as well as Cool Stuff Inc. And remember, promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% at Cool Stuff Inc. if you ever need to buy some paper Magic cards. So here it is, the deck list in all of its glory. We're going to be playing 3 copies of the One Ring, and the 4th is going to be in the board as a Karn the Great Creator tutor target. Notably over there, we also have our way to go and take the initiative, which is cheeky, maybe not actually good, but probably necessary in this janky shell that I am putting together here. One notable thing here, Chandra Heart of Fire's plus ability allows you to discard your hand, which may end up being relevant if we tick up the One Ring a couple of times. And the One Ring is going to have some tension with Ensnaring Bridge, but one of the nice things is that when you play the One Ring, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn, which means that if you kind of temporarily go above your normal hand size with Ensnaring Bridge, that's okay. You can draw some bonus cards the next turn and then hopefully, like, vomit Chrome Box and Infuries out of your hand, or just Jokulhaups and obliterate the board. We are playing a larger than average Karn the Great Creator tutor board to fit in, like, One Ring, Great Furnace as an extra land drop, because, like, getting to 6 does very much matter in this deck list, and our anti-initiative card. So our sideboard options will be a little bit limited, and you'll notice that in the main deck, I'm not playing anything like Trinisphere to support Chalice of the Void. look, we're trying to get a little cute today. We're trying to get a little cute today, and we are probably going to have to just give up some percentage points somewhere in order to do that. And I've chosen to give up those percentage points versus combo because I think we're already not going to be the best versus combo decks, just generally speaking. Yeah, so with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the league here. Oh, I guess one more neat interaction. When the One Ring gives you protection from everything, that means your Ancient Tombs as well as the backside of Shatter Skull Smashing are no longer going to deal damage to you. Or sorry, that's damage versus loss of life. JK, backside of this one doesn't work. Ancient Tomb will no longer deal damage to you, which may be relevant in this league. And yeah, let's battle. My opponent is mulliganing very aggressively. They are down to 4 cards. I'm instantly scared. We're going to die before I get to do anything cool. But my hand is reasonable for a fair or fair adjacent matchup. Just, if my opponent is playing something like Reanimator, they're probably getting me in game 1. Although, maybe we're just slamming a turn 1 Ensnaring Bridge rather than a turn 1 Blood Sun. Alright, are you Reanimator? You're mulliganing like you're Reanimator. You're playing a Swamp like you're a Reanimator. Playing a Lotus Petal like you're a Reanimator. Oh, but you're passing the turn. Yeah, baby. Karn? I find it difficult to believe that Karn is not the play here. I'm just going to confirm that Tormod's Crypt is in my sideboard before I make this play. Yes. Alright. Ancient Tomb. Mox. I think I'm getting rid of this. Like, shutting off my opponent's fetch lands is something that matters. And I think a lot of my mana is spoken for future turns anyway. Exile Spirit Guide to get this Karn into play. I will minus, pick up Tormod's Crypt, and cast it. And assuming that we are playing against something like Reanimator, we have probably won this game. It takes a while, but I suspect we are donezo. So let's make my opponent's future fetching worse, just in case I am wrong about what we are playing. And the mana sources matter. That's great for next turn. Go ahead and play that. It will enter untapped. And I believe I will go ahead and just plus and destroy the Lotus Petal just in case. All right, my opponent has no game actions to speak of. Next turn I have Mycosynth Lattice, which generates a win for me. I think I am just good to plus, deal my opponent a little bit of damage. Will not cast that. I did not make a land drop this turn, right? I did not. I will go ahead and Karn minus. Or actually, that was silly. Why did I do that? Yeah, I had better lines this turn involving this Trinisphere as well. Okay. I think I misplayed. I don't think it matters. But now I don't have Mycosynth Lattice lock anymore. Okay, that doesn't work. There's surely no reason to cast that spell. Yeah, there's no reason to cast that. It makes me sad. There's no reason to do that. Let's go ahead and put that under here. Let's plus my Planeswalker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can cast that. Sure. Or no, yeah, I haven't put an Ensnaring Bridge in play. And that's fine. And I'll Karn plus on no target. But yeah, like 2 turns ago, I was just supposed to play Trinisphere to just hedge against my opponent being Storm and having a fistful of rituals or something. Alright. I will go ahead and hit my opponent for 6 here, which brings him to 11. I will minus Karn. Yes. Pick up a Mycosynth Lattice, which I will cast. Opponent doesn't get spells anymore. And I will go ahead and ping them to death. Alright, that puts them to 9. I don't know why we're still playing Magic. We have my opponent dead a whole bunch of different ways. I'm going to do this the lazy way. And this combat damage will kill my opponent. I'm very happy to take game 1 here. As we talked about in the deck tech, I'm very, very unfavored versus combo, generally speaking, I think. So I have Karns, which are a tutor for Tormod's Crypt. And I'm okay at getting to 4 mana on turn 1 or turn 2, so I think I leave that in there. But I think at least Trinisphere comes in. I might board in Great Furnace just as another land. Fury feels less important here. Although if my opponent boards into a bunch of small creatures, I might regret that decision. Ensnaring Bridge hopefully covers those. I think Fury and Blood Sun are some of my weaker cards here. Blood Sun is just nice to help stabilize my mana because it keeps City of Traders alive. And a lot of times I need to play out an early-ish City of Traders to play Karn or Chalice or whatever. I'm going to say that this is good. Pretty close to an ideal hand here. We will not be the best versus Serenity. But I don't think there's much that I can do to stop that one. Like, Serenity, if my opponent has it in their opening hand, would come down before Chalice of the Void on 2 would. I'm just going to pause here for a minute, just for like a little bit of positioning. Make my opponent think like I'm really thinking about my opening hand, making them slightly less likely to just mulligan to something that beats Leyline of the Void. Alright, so we start with Leyline in play. My opponent is on 5 cards. And we'll see what they can do. Ooh, that's probably not what they want to be doing. Yep, that is not what they want to be doing. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is where I keep all of my deck lists online, and I actually want to show off a feature they made specifically for me, because their team is small and responsive. On the Settings and Decks tab, you can actually click Ignore Card Flavor Names to shut off displaying new names for cards, like Balaam's Tomb instead of Ancient Tomb. So if those sorts of things are annoying you online, here's how you shut it off. Okay, this hand has no lands in it, and I don't think that's going to be acceptable. Like, the only thing this hand can do is turn 1 Chalice of the Void, and Chalice of the Void by itself does not make a hand keepable. And mulligans are fine with this deck. Like, a lot of times mulligans will make it easier for us to get Hellbent for Ensnaring Bridge anyway. So, what am I doing with this? Turn 1 Mountain, Chrome Mox, imprinting one of these 2 cards, cast Chalice of the Void. I don't have an immediate follow-up play. I think this is an acceptable 6. I think I throw back Karn. Karn is colorless, doesn't imprint under Chrome Mox. And I think the most important thing right now is having a little bit of flexibility for what I imprint. Like, I am intending... Oh, shit. Hand's changed. Blood Sun now. Tapped, Shatter Skull Smashing, Chrome Mox, imprint Jokulhaups, play Chalice on 0? Is pretty reasonable, I think. It is possible I am supposed to imprint Blood Sun, as my opponent might have lands that are relevant. But this is a redraw towards more mana. Alright. Imprint Jokulhaups. Play Chalice on 0. Play tapped land. Alright, so we are probably playing against Red-White Initiative. Feel pretty safe confirming that after seeing Plateau. We have the wrong portion of the deck for this matchup. Like, we kind of have the Stompy side when I want the Fury side. Alright, I hit a land on the redraw. That means I can Chandra Torch of Defiance next turn. I am hoping that my opponent does not produce another creature this turn. If they don't produce another creature, I have a pretty easy line towards, like, Chandra plus Jokulhaups over 2 turns. But if my opponent plays something like a Seasoned Dungeoneer this turn, that doesn't get to happen anymore. Yeah, there's the City of Traders on the other side of the battlefield. Alright. Not great for me. So long term, I am going to have to take the initiative, or my opponent over a long enough time span can just loop the Undercity and beat me that way. So, like, I have long-term plans. Alright, we just need to draw Soul Land, and hopefully things will be okay from there. I have no choice but to kill this. Like, it's just too much damage. And there's no way my opponent would not kill my planeswalker here. Oh wow, they're not going down the left side here. And bottomed as well. Playing more lands is good for me. But that is not... That is a powerful turn. My opponent is going to have the Monarch and the Initiative simultaneously, so my Jokulhaups is dubious at best. That was some shit. Damn it. Yeah, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. So even if I kill a creature with a Chandra, I am unfortunately just dead. This is a matchup that we do not want to be playing. So I would like Chalice of the Void to not be in my deck. I think I board in a copy of the One Ring, and I assume that Karn most of the time is tutoring for Ensnaring Bridge, or to a lesser extent this. Cast Into the Fire is a red card that I can imprint and pitch for stuff. The 1 damage to each creature is not the best. The Exile Target Artifact mode has some text, and then we'll just round out the sideboarding with Great Furnace. Yeah, but the Initiative was a deck that I thought meant like the death toll for this deck, but you know, we're gonna struggle and try anyway. Okay, this doesn't do anything. I just need more mana. This is the same problem as the last hand. I just have 2 total mana. It's no good. So this one technically has 3 mana. Man. Alright. You're gone. You're gone. Oh wait, I get to keep 5 of these. Pitching both of these is a little awkward if I draw Chrome Mox specifically, but I feel like it is the line that I'm supposed to take. I just think I'm already dead, just looking at the opening hand, though. It's possible I'm supposed to go to 4. But this gives me some semblance of hope of drawing a soul land and digging out of this game with the One Ring. My opponent's deck is just going to be so much faster than mine that once I'm already down a couple... Oh, they have Magus in post board. Well, they might just have slots to fill. Thank you, Karn. Yeah, we'll just tapped land, pass the turn here. Alright, how bad is it? I mean, not the best, but I've already gotten a bunch of my non-basics out of the way. Alright, we have drawn a few 4-drops in a row. I'll take 2 from Archon. The universe has a cruel sense of humor, so I'll draw Chrome Mox for my turn. Alright, there's Seasoned Dungeoneer. City of Traders is almost good. Almost good. I have to play it tapped, which means that I don't get to play the One Ring and Fog, or play Karn and start going for Ensnaring Bridge. Which is honestly a little frustrating. But we were expecting to lose this matchup anyway. So, oh, they hit the +1/+1 counter there, so I take 8. Go to 10, which is effectively 5 because of trap over here. Alright, yep. 5 is not the best place to be when having multiple copies of the One Ring in hand. So, what am I doing? I'm casting the One Ring. That just fully has to happen. I'm just unsure how I beat the Archon from here. I don't need to draw a card now. Alright, there's my opponent's 1 spell for the turn. Honestly, pretty happy about that. You're still supposed to attack for this trigger. I don't know how I win without drawing more cards. Maybe we can figure something out with some copies of Shatterskull Smashing on Archon, plus some fast mana. We'll go ahead and draw 2. I needed like some Spirit Guides or something here. The lands entering tapped is so brutal. I cast a new copy of the One Ring. Keep this one. If I play Shatterskull Smashing, I technically go down on number of lands, like amount of mana for next turn. Is that fine? So I need 5 mana to deal with this, which is what I have in play. So I should not play a land drop. And we'll see if Throne of the Dead 3 ends up killing me somehow. Not really. Like, Lauren can't blow up the One Ring. It just accelerates my opponent towards Trap, which does kill me. Well, it maybe kills me, because I can maybe One Ring my way through it. I need some artifact mana. But we're not out of this shit yet. This is fine. Like, this, in fact, sets it up so my opponent might have to trap themselves, and then that buys me a astounding amount of time. You're also supposed to buff that up to shut off my lines of killing this via red damage spells. There's an Ensnaring Bridge. Good card, maybe not at its best exactly right now. At the beginning of the next end step. That's fine. That's totally fine. Like, I actively have my plan to beat that in hand. I just need some artifact mana. I draw my cards. God damn it. Yeah, that is not gonna do it. So I can't kill Archon and then play another thing. So I play another copy of the One Ring. Keep this one. Now, I need to keep all these lands in play, so I'm not playing any others because I need the 5 to get rid of this. I am just moving to discard. My opponent's thing comes back. They go to trap. Yeah, so they will trap themselves. They needed to bounce through here to go back to archives. Now I discard some cards. Ancient Tomb not going to be at its best here. Karn is colorless and a bit awkward. Get rid of one of those. Probably get rid of one mountain. I'll find more. It is a miracle that I'm alive. Okay, so my opponent at least realized that they can attack with this to look at an extra card. Lotus Petal. I don't take any combat damage. Yeah, Petal's your one spell. And I'll keep drawing cards. All right, there's some artifact mana, so you're telling me there's a chance. A little dubious. Oh wait, one piece of artifact mana isn't enough, right? I need 2. This 2 gets me to 4 mana. How am I living through the One Ring then? Let's try to find out. No, I messed up. No, I didn't. The Ensnaring Bridge doesn't save me from all of these. I'll still just have too many cards in hand, right? Like, subtract 2. Could have Chandra, minus. Kill this. Play City. Yeah, I just have too many cards in hand. I'm just going to confirm that I am dead. I can't see any way that I beat this. Yeah, because I can't now plus for a One Ring. Yeah, so I minus on this, kill this. I play a Chrome Mox. Imprint a Shatter Skull Smashing. Play a land. Lose that. Play an Ensnaring Bridge. Yeah, actually, I died at this. If I didn't activate this, I have two fewer cards. Yep, we have gotten the GG in chats. They know it, I know it. But damn, I struggled the best that I could. Oh, okay, I would have lost to that, my Ensnaring Bridge, even if I would have gone the other, like, even if the Seasoned Dungeoneer wasn't a problem, all this other stuff would be. All right, I will concede here. They've got it. I have a bit of an awkward hand here that I think I am going to keep on the draw. So I have a turn 1 Chalice of the Void, probably followed by a turn 2 Planeswalker. Between 2 draw steps, I'm very likely to get something that allows me to put this into play. While Chalice alone does not make something a keep, Chalice plus one other thing almost always does. Okay, great. There's a land. So, Mountain. Chromox. My opponent says they'll do their best to make me work for my victory. I'll take free wins. Free wins are fine. So I'm currently afraid that my opponent is just going to be something like a show and tell deck, and like my Chalice of the Void doesn't matter. Or alternatively, they're just like a Bant control deck list, and my Chalice of the Void also doesn't matter. Boy, this turn's tough. Here's what I'm sitting here thinking about. If I play Chandra, and Chandra resolves, I can't do anything else cool this turn. Whereas if I play Karn and Karn resolves, and my opponent is playing something like Show and Tell, I can -4 Ensnaring Bridge, and that's a soft lock against Show and Tell. I am going to cast Chandra, because Chandra allows me to cast Karn next turn, while also giving me some flexibility. We'll just plus for damage here. We'll not cast a mountain. And then we can use Chandra's plus for mana, which I think is a better way to do this. Because, like, my opponent's opener is ambiguous enough that I don't just want to be, like, all in on them being show and tell immediately. Ooh. I'm going to plus here. Okay. Twist my arm. I will play the One Ring. Okay, yep. So, I saw a single spell for my opponent all game. My opponent naturally had Snow-Covered Island in hand. That is unlikely to happen if my opponent is just playing Delver, but it's more likely to happen if my opponent is playing a Grixis control deck with multiple basics. It's also more likely to happen if my opponent is playing something like Show and Tell. Bloodstain Mire pushes my thoughts towards this being a control deck rather than anything else. Also just could be something like Storm. This is probably going to be a time where I sideboard minimally. My opponent is playing something like Grixis Control. I've got Orcish Bowmasters to worry about, and Ensnaring Bridge helps with that a bit. I have to be careful about setting my Planeswalkers' loyalty too low. The thing my opponent technically conceded to was the One Ring, which makes me lean towards control. Their control and my Ensnaring Bridges are less important. They are like a tempo deck, though, that just gave up. Then I need all those bridges. I think I'm going to whack the submit button. This is a weird hand. This attempts to play a turn 1 Blood Sun to have stable mana, or can go turn 1 City into turn 2 Blood Sun. The mana is awkward. I keep this. Like, I also just have the possibility of turn 1 Chandra, if I just think my opponent is not going to have counterspells. So, if I play City of Traders and my opponent wastelands me, it is, as they say, totes awkward, which incentivizes me to play Blood Sun. I'm going to play Blood Sun. I think losing this land is not the best, and I don't know that I want to start on this land and just cast Chalice on one. I'm going to get to play this around a daze, but my opponent doesn't get to see that coming. Alright, so the City of Traders is never getting wastelanded. I don't need to play Chrome Mox this turn. We're good. I'm very happy with how this hand looks now. I'm going to play the backside of this. That is always true. I think I imprint my Planeswalker, despite the fact that she is batshit insane good right now. I think I just do this and put a Chalice on one around every counterspell. Well, not every counterspell, but like around the soft permission counterspells. Alright, so there's another Volcanic Island. I'm going to play Karn the Great Creator into soft counterspells here. Okay. That ate a Murktide Regent. I am insanely happy with that exchange, because that's one of the few cards that my opponent can cast through a Chalice that like could realistically beat me. That is a Wasteland that we have shut off. Happy about that. This gets to live. We'll attempt the One Ring around soft counters. Nice. And we'll start drawing cards to refuel. But that is not getting rid of my Chalice of the Void now. Oh yeah, so that using that in response is very good, because the yeah, so the burden counter is never placed on it, since it is removed before that resolves, which means that I don't actually draw a card from that activation. That's sick. I haven't seen that happen yet. Alright. So now I just fish for another 4-cost card that will beat my opponent. I don't need to play that as a land. I can save that as a potential removal spell. Like, I can change my mind to put it under a Chrome Mox. But it's my turn again. Alright, fantastic. So I already get to play this around soft counters. So let's do that. And we'll start plussing for damage here. We'll not cast Ancient Tomb. I'm still going to hold this, I think. Like, having a random removal spell for a Brazen Borrower or whatever is just nice. Hey, speaking of. Okay, there's a Lightning Bolt on my Planeswalker. See if my opponent has another one. Don't think they were supposed to play that Polluted Delta. Like, it's not on right now because of Blood Sun. So I'm going to attempt to recast this, and I presume... Nope. I will go ahead and cast this now. Alright. We are in soft lock on this game territory. Like, my opponent can play a Brazen Borrower, but it doesn't get to attack due to Ensnaring Bridge. Those cards are also not functional. Karn is solid. I'll go ahead and play that. Well, Karn minus. I just pick up this one ring. That seems unnecessary. I think I can just go this route. And I'm going to go down on cards here. Right? I think so. Like, I'll just start obliterating my opponent's lands. And I can get a second Ensnaring Bridge as a safety net at some point. Brazen Borrowers, no big deal for now. Just temporarily shut off some mana for their turn, so it's less likely that they can just like bounce the Ensnaring Bridge out of play and get some damage in. Yeah, okay, they're done. We have gotten the GGs. My opponent says hello to everyone down in the YouTube comments. All right, what does my opening hand do? My opening hand has not enough consistent mana. YOLO. YOLO. I have no idea which land to put back. I believe. Alright. Are we dead to Force of Will? No! Hell yeah. Let's fucking go. I will not cast an Ensnaring Bridge. A shame, I would have been very happy to draw that card. An island from my opponent. Well, plus for mana. I think I play the land so that this Karn is played around days. And I'm going to get Karn. Force pitching Tide Shaper. So my opponent is playing Merfolk. Understood. This is turn 2. This is my second land. I don't have a land drop to make here. Wasteland is fine. Silvergill Adept pitching, or sorry, revealing another Silvergill Adept. That's fine. I am probably supposed to play that this turn. I will pay the 3 life here. I'll add some mana. And attempt to fog. Fog successful. I'll draw my card now. It is a new Chandra. Now, very notably here, the One Ring gives you protection from everything until your next turn. It does not give my Planeswalker protection from everything. So my opponent can still attack my Planeswalker here. Sure. Or presumably 3 points of damage on my Planeswalker. Okay, and my opponent does not miss the fact that they can hit me. Sure. It is for non-creature spells. That's fine. We're just going to draw some additional cards here, try to get something else into play this turn. Alice is not at its best. I'm trying to decide how much I need this Chandra. This mana is very important to me, but maybe less so than it looks because I just have the One Ring in play with some counters on it, so it may just be that I need to minus and kill this and just let this Planeswalker go. The alternative is plus Chandra for mana. Cast Karn. Karn trades with this, essentially. And then this is still in play. This is a weird situation that I've never quite been in. So it's always that. I don't want my opponent having this around. And I am going to cast this mostly to get it out of my hand. It'll technically stop Aether Vial, and like, could technically try to stop something like this, but my opponent has Cavern of Souls, so that's less likely to actually occur. I'm just, like, fully unsure whether or not I played that turn correctly. Like, losing this is a pain. But, yep, that's fine. Black? Merfolk Trickster, sure. What's the black for? Oh, it's gonna be that stupid Lord of the Rings draw spell that costs 3 mana that I haven't learned the name of yet. I think it's like Sauron's Ransom or something. I can get to 4 mana. I'm trying to get to 6. Not the happiest with this situation. I think my play is attempt a Karn. Karn minus. Karn, I think, gets me a new copy of the One Ring. Because, like, this is starting to be a lot of damage. So I think I just treat Karn as draw a copy of the One Ring, gain 3 life. I assume this is attack. Yep. That's fine. I lose 3. Which is getting to scary territory. Love this. So let's draw some cards. Oh man, is it Orcish Bowmasters? Fuck, I figured that out half a second too late. Okay. This is hopefully still fine. There's 4 Orcish Bowmaster triggers. Wow, I didn't draw a single piece of mana that does not cost me life. That's brutal. And incredibly statistically unlikely as well. So I have to play the backside of this and go to 1 to play a new copy of the One Ring. I keep that one, and I get protection from everything. I probably Fury at this point. Pitch one of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm dead to another Orcish Bowmasters, but I didn't really have a way to stop that. And I never get to draw any cards with this copy of the One Ring. Yeah, Shatterskull Smashing. Like, drawing only Shatterskull Smashings, like not a single mountain or whatever, was particularly brutal. So now how am I dealing with this? I drew no pieces of artifact acceleration in a whole bunch of cards. I needed 1 to get to Jokulhaups. Don't have enough mana for this. I can't think of an out that involves Chandra Heart of Fire, but I sure don't have any other options. Is that true? What about Blood Sun Redraw? Blood Sun Redraw does not get me there. Oh, okay. Ugh, Orcish Bowmasters is broken. It even let Merfolk get a game win. How shameful. Alright, what am I gonna do here? Chalice of the Void is not particularly good against my opponent's deck, so I'm going to look to fill some slots. Probably 2 Cast into the Fire, which is sometimes a removal spell. It's probably promoting Great Furnace to the main deck. And then I don't really have another great card. I think I'm leaving this in the board to tutor for. I think I need both this and Ensnaring Bridge as tutor targets. I don't think I want to be introducing the initiative into the game. I play like 1 Trinisphere to help against counterspells. Maybe my deck also needs Lotus Petals. I'll play 1 Trinisphere begrudgingly. I could also play Sorcerous Spyglass for Aether Vial. Can't do anything. This hand doesn't really do anything. It has like some removal, but I think I'd rather just mulligan. This turn 1 no play, turn 2 Karn with Fury backup. That's fine. I think I pitch this. I'm pretty soft to a Wasteland in this hand. But let's see how it goes. Cavern on Merfolk. Daze won't be available. That's fine. That one doesn't do anything versus me. I'm going to wait to play this. I'm going to go ahead and jam a Karn. Force of Will is unfortunate, but not unexpected. Like, I'm still doing okay. Like, my plan involves casting an Ensnaring Bridge and then Furying my opponent's board. Wow. Okay. I could Jokulhaups right now and start this game over. I'm not really sure that I am ready to do that. But I know my opponent's on a one-lander. It's round 4 and I haven't cast my card yet. This leaves a Fury in hand afterwards. Alright. Pay some life. Actually a respectable amount of life to cast this. Makes my One Ring slightly worse. Force of Negation. Sure. So at some point in the not too distant future, I'll cast a Fury, clear my opponent's board, and Ensnaring Bridge buys me an absurd amount of time. Cool. I don't love how low my life total is getting, but hopefully this is fine. Mistcaller gets to keep cracking in at me. They attacked and then grew it. It is worth my 2 life to cast this, but barely. This Hexcatcher gets to attack. I'm hoping to draw a land and just get this Fury out of my hand. If I draw a red card, I will still just cast the Fury to go down to 0 cards in hand. Alright, I'm at 4. So I'm pitch casting. It's highly unfortunate, but this means that I am always at 0 cards for the purposes of Ensnaring Bridge. So we will do 2 damage to each. That way this doesn't get saved by a Lord. Alright, they're all gone. Now I don't have a way to gain life. And drawing 4 drops is a little awkward right now. Speaking of, so I probably cast that. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Try to get lucky and have my next draw be City of Traders. Okay, sure. So as of right now, this was still worth it. But it can become not worth it if my opponent has 2 lords left. Okay, yep, that's fine. Mox. Awkward. I cast this, get protection from everything. Ooh, maybe not. One has another Merfolk. Sure, so you can sacrifice this to counter that, which is fine. And I just cast a Naked Chrome Mox to not take any damage to my opponent's creatures, but I'm at 1. So now it's just fully like, in what order do I draw my cards? Also, does my opponent draw an Orcish Bowmasters? Yeah, so I die to that. Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate draw order. Like, I maybe could have not played the Jokulhaups and tried to slow roll that game a little bit more. There were options there. I have an awkward hand here. It deals a lot of self-damage to myself between the One Ring and Shatterskull Smashing. And I'm not good at like playing out Fury as an attacker. Even if I do so, Ensnaring Bridge kind of gets in the way. I think I'm keeping it. I think it's just a little awkward. Like, this is a deck that would prefer to lead on a Planeswalker rather than lead on the One Ring. So this is Ancient Tomb Pass so that I have the possibility of playing a turn 2 the One Ring. It's just a little awkward if I end up wanting to do a 3 mana play instead. Ooh, that's not great for me. Mox Diamond, sure. You're playing against lands. I have an idea of how we're going to win the game. Takes a lot to get there. This game probably fully comes down to whether or not my opponent has Life from the Loam. And that is super unfortunate for me, because if they do, I'm just naked to it. Yeah. I just had no basic mountains here. With a Spirit Guide or a Chrome Mox, I can get somewhere, otherwise I just can't. Ever. I think I make no play this turn. Unfortunate thing here is this just lets my opponent dredge with Life from the Loam in a way that is like very much not profitable for me. Alright, yep. So that's very good. That helps a shit ton. That at least gives me a path forward. Because that stops most of the nonsense my opponent can do. Like, can my opponent beat a Blood Sun? I am not sure that my opponent can actually beat a Blood Sun. Post-Aju. Post-Aju getting rid of Blood Sun is the thing that can beat me. My opponent will repeatedly dredge life from the loam looking for that. Okay, figured it out. I'm going to go ahead and make this as a land drop. Comes into play untapped. Fury doesn't really matter in this matchup. Before a random sphere comes down and slows me down in future turns, I'm going to go ahead and just cast this. I think I'm pitching Jokulhaups. Like, my opponent just has life from the loam to rebuild, and their deck is just full of lands. Oh, Blast Zone. No, Blast Zone is fine. Okay, yep, sure, that's fine. Note that this now enters with no ice counter, so if my opponent does find Boseiju, I am dead. Unless I do this. That just requires my opponent to dredge and Boseiju again, though, so that doesn't actually save me. I'm going to hold this. I think it is more important to play one of these 4-drops next turn if I draw a mana source than it is to get Ensnaring Bridge to help insulate me. Now multiple life from the loam's chilling. There's a Chalice of the Void. I would like to do that on 2 to stop life from the loam dredging nonsense. I'm going to make no play again. Okay, cool. They have not found it yet. A new Blood Sun is not how I want to use this Spirit Guide, but is probably how I am going to use this Spirit Guide, as this does buy me an extra turn and gives me a new redraw towards a land. Nope. Alright. Still haven't found it. So there's a discard on a life from the loam. I have, I think, drawn more non-lands than is statistically likely. But I guess there's a couple in my graveyard from the beginning of the game. Alright, Bojuka Maze of Ith out there. Okay. Discard Jokulhaups. I'm gonna discard Jokulhaups. That might be worse than second Chandra, unsure. Okay, still no Boseiju. Oh my god. I'll discard Karn. Sylvan Library, Dark Depths, Saga. Okay, cool. So, the one of these that wins me the game hardest is what? Chalice on 2? Chalice on 2 this turn, Karn the following turn, I think. Then they can't fish it out of their graveyard, they have to naturally draw it. Yeah, so now they're on natural draws for it, which is not really where they want to be. So I think next I get myself out of the mana bottleneck by playing this lady. And we'll just plus for some damage. And then I can start doing some other, like, Karn related lines with Mycosynth Lattice or whatever. So on my turn, I can Karn and then Sorceress Spyglass Boseiju, and that should do it. Oh, they found it. I pick up a mountain. Then they can Life from the Loam it back. Is fine. All right. Yes. Mountain. Okay, this is all fine. The third Life from the Loam is a problem, though. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Karn into Lattice just win me the game here? No, because my opponent gets rid of Blood Sun in response and makes a 20/20. Alright, cast Karn. Karn minus. Get Tormod's Crypt. Plus for mana. Get Ensnaring Bridge. Cast Tormod's Crypt. Pass turn? You are doing this on the Blood Sun, which is fine. I use this opportunity to clear the life from the loam and the Boseijus from the game. Goodbye. Alright. So Merit Lodge happens. I have 3 mana available on my main phase. That doesn't really do anything. I will go ahead and pass the turn. Okay, sure. My opponent can work towards Blast Zone on Ensnaring Bridge, but I can stop that on my turn. Like Mycosynth Lattice does a fine job at just stopping that. Okay, yeah, the Wastelands and stuff are on. But I still just have Port. Sorry, like, even through Port, I still just have enough mana to Mycosynth Lattice lock my opponent. Barely. Ooh. That might change things. Oh shit, they missed Rashad porting me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exactly enough for Mycosynth Lattice. Yep. So Karn minus. Yes. Mycosynth Lattice. Plus for mana. With just enough mana here to do that. Okay. I probably had some tighter lines available that game, but I did a good job of foreseeing what would beat me and finding a way to beat that. I literally lose that game if my opponent Rashad imports me, right? Or at least it's much harder and like becomes prolonged. Ugh. So, Boseiju is a problem, which means I probably play Leyline of the Void. From there, I'm not sure if I'm playing more cards than that. Like, Cast into the Fire to exile spheres is a thing. My Chalice of the Voids aren't exactly at their best, especially on the draw, but a Chalice on 2 is completely reasonable. Like, Chalice on 2 is just very awkward if I also want to bring in Cast into the Fire. The Life from the Loam repeatedly dredging to find Boseiju is a pain. Not sure that I'm sideboarding more than this. Like, I still need Ensnaring Bridges for Urza Saga at the end of the day. Alright. No changes. While Leyline of the Void is good, I think this just has no persistent mana. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one. This is an unexciting hand that I think I am going to keep. I'm not happy about it. But it starts by shutting off one of my opponent's major axes. JK. Fucking daggered. So I play this land tapped. That's a one of Urza Saga tutor target, by the way. At least it's gone forever. Yeah. I knew that was a potential thing that could happen, but I just had to play it. Like, I need to play towards casting something like this on my third land drop, which means exposing this to Wasteland. Sure. Okay, there's another land. Well, no, that's their first land drop for that turn. Loam's very bad. Now that means I don't get to just, like, 2 turns work towards assorted things. I think the play is no play here. It's just frustrating. Because every time I make no play, my opponent can just, like, dredge Life from the Loam and work towards whatever it is they want to be doing. Fantastic, I needed that. So let's cast this. I think imprinting the land here. This gets me a jump to 4 mana, which I'm going to use to play the thing that can get me more mana in the future. Notably here, by choosing not to play Ensnaring Bridge this turn, it is possible that I die to 2 crop rotations. Ooh, I think no. Maybe yes, though. Like, I really want to do this to just nuke all my opponent's lands, but, like, they have Life from the Loam. Maybe I need to do this to work towards Ensnaring Bridge plus some other card next turn. Okay. I'm just sad about it. Alright. Let's see if I die to multiple crop rotations right now. Hardcast Force of Vigor instead. I mean, that's annoying, but very beatable. Yeah, like, that's fine. Sphere is annoying. So I'm plussing for damage here. No. I would like to be able to cast a Chromox, even though I only have a couple left in the deck. So we have my opponent on a clock, technically. Wild at my best draw is Basic Mountain. on turn 6. Okay, so now 1 crop rotation is scary. Okay, yep. Alright. We plus. There's a mountain that I can't cast. You can't cast mountains. I may end up losing this game for not drawing a basic mountain. Need this ensnaring bridge in play. My opponent has used 3 Force of Vigors and a Wire Might already. They're not going to be left with too many outs to ensnaring bridge. Sure. Cannot use that currently. 1 mana short. Embleming doesn't make sense here. I can't cast my spells. I cannot play the backside of that. So we'll just keep doing damage. Okay, we're getting pretty lucky on these dredges, but pretty unlucky on our draw steps. All right, there's another loam, so they can dredge it next turn. There is an ancient tomb. I am plussing Chandra for mana, and I think playing Blood Sun here, because that means I don't get wastelanded. I am going to not take damage here due to Yavimaya. And then I don't get wastelanded. And then hopefully I just draw another mana source and I can just Chandra Emblem and end this game with a couple of spells. That would be nice. Oh, they had Boseiju. I'll grab a mountain. Let's grab one of these ones. The Wasteland is back on the table. I am going to need to Karn minus and get Tormod's Crypt to get rid of that Boseiju. But my opponent's going to have it chilling in their hand, which is a pain in my butt. My opponent has conceded. I don't think that game was actually over. I think I am favored, but we're not done. And we put up a 3-2 finish in this league. I'm not really sure how I feel at the end of this league here. I'm not sure that we cast Jokulhaups. We had opportunities to, but I'm not sure that we actually cast it throughout this entire league. And I think this is the second league in a row where that has been the case. Legacy has accelerated a bit. You know, there's initiative decks around, you know, combo decks are relatively fast by Legacy standards. And I feel like my games were not won or lost by Jokulhaups. Like, they were won or lost by mostly Karn the Great Creator, honestly. Like, as much as I dislike this card, like, this card did a lot of heavy lifting in this game with, like, Mycosynth Lattice lockouts, fishing for Ensnaring Bridge, or I think we even won a game by just getting Liquid Metal Coating and starting to attack our opponent's lands. And the One Ring did some interesting things this league. Especially like with multiple copies, kind of looping them to protect. Like, we had an absolutely crazy match versus Initiative. I think one of my biggest problems with how this deck is constructed is the amount of life loss you have. So we have Ancient Tomb, we have the backside of Shatterskull Smashing, and we have the One Ring. Without any way to gain life, I don't know that this deck closes games fast enough to be playing the One Ring. Like, I am glad that I tested it. It was worth testing. But I think a couple different conclusions here. Like, number one, the One Ring is maybe not at its best in a prison deck. Like, you have to close the games quickly if you're going to outpace the life loss. Alternatively, like, you could redesign this deck to be an Urza Saga deck and then insert Shadow Spear into it, and then, like, maybe that goes in a real direction. But, like, with the initiative around, and now, like, Monarch from 4th Aerlingas as well, there's a lot of reasons to not cast Jokulhaups, and it might be time to sunset Jokulhaups. It had its moment in the sun, but I don't know that it's viable for anything other than having a good time and maybe making a video for the sake of entertainment purposes. But I hope you learned some things from this league. The gameplay was incredibly intricate. Leave me your thoughts down in the comments below. You know, is this fixable? You know, should I have been Jokulhaupsing harder? Let me know what you think. And remember, if you need to buy any of these cards, please check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. Have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya!